Okay, welcome back to another video on the Math channel. It's your teacher, Mr. Lim here, and in this video, we are going to be looking at the sum, difference, product, and quotient of functions. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to do all those things, as well as state the domain and range for each. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. Given that f of x is equal to 2x squared minus x plus 1, and g of x is equal to x cubed minus 2, write the function y equals f of x plus g of x and state the domain and range for this function. So here we've got y equals f of x plus g of x, which means we're finding the sum of two functions because it's a plus. So if y is equal to f of x plus g of x and f of x is this, according to that, we can just write this as 2x squared minus x plus 1. Okay, we're just going to substitute f of x with that. We've got a plus sign, so I'm just going to write that down. And g of x, because we need to add g of x, and because g of x is x cubed minus 2, I'm just going to substitute g of x with x cubed minus 2. And so all we're going to do is just now collect like terms. Y is equal to, and I like to put the term with the highest power first in descending order. So that means I'm going to put x cubed first. Then I've got plus 2x squared. It's plus because it's positive. There's no minus sign in front of it. Then I've got minus x. I've got plus 1 minus 2 is minus 1. And that's it. That's my final answer. I've found the sum of these two functions. And so now we want to work out the domain and range. If we were to sketch this, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I do know the general shape. Because the leading term is x cubed, positive x cubed, that means it's going to look something like this. Okay? And because it looks something like that, is a cubic, we know that the domain is x is an element of all real numbers. However, if we want to write that in interval notation, x is from negative infinity to infinity. Okay, and remember we use curved brackets because we don't include negative infinity or infinity. They're not real numbers. The range is also y is an element of all real numbers, and therefore from negative infinity to infinity. Okay, let's have a look at question B. Write the function y equals f of x minus g of x. So now we're finding the difference. Maybe I'll write this before. This is the sum, and this is a difference because it's got a minus sign. Alright, so let's try this again. Y is equal to f of x. Well, f of x we saw was 2x squared minus x plus 1. But now we are going to minus, because here it says minus, so I'm just going to put that down. We're going to subtract all of what gx is, g of x. And g of x is x cubed minus 2, which means we need to subtract all of it. And now we just collect like terms. If you want, we can expand the brackets. Minus x cubed and plus 2. Because remember that there's an imaginary 1 out here. When we expand, we multiply. Minus 1 times x cubed is minus x cubed. Minus 1 times minus 2 is positive 2. And now we can collect like terms. So our final answer is minus x cubed plus 2x squared minus x plus 3. If you want to like cross them out as you go, that's fine. So we've done minus x cubed, we've done plus 2x squared, we've done this minus x, 1 plus 2 is 3. And now you know that we've done all of them. And so because this is, again, cubic but negative, it's going to be shaped the other way. Okay, so what that means is that the domain is from negative infinity to infinity, and the range is also from negative infinity to infinity. Okay, let's have a look at question C. Write the function y of f of x multiplied by g of x and state the domain and range for this function. So this is the product of two functions. So f of x is 2x squared minus x plus 1. But we need to multiply that by g of x, which is x cubed minus 2. I'm just going to move this down one. Alright, so when we multiply this, we're just going to use the FOIL method. Unfortunately, it's not just a normal FOIL, but we need to multiply every term. So this first term by everything that's in there, and then the second one, and then the last one. Okay, so let's have a look at this. 2x squared times x cubed is 2x to the power 5. 2x squared times minus 2 is minus 4x squared. Minus x times x cubed is minus x to the 4. Minus x times minus 2 is positive 2x. 1 times x cubed is x cubed. 1 times minus 2 is minus 2. Okay, and now we're just going to rearrange all of these in descending order of power. So we have 2x to the 5 minus x to the 4 plus x cubed minus 4x squared plus 2x and minus 2. So you didn't need to do that apparently according to this question. You would, I would still mark this middle line correct. The only reason why I did that was to see if I needed to collect any like terms. But because there weren't any like terms, I would accept that middle answer. Okay, and now we want to state the domain and range. So this is 2x to the power of 5. So because the power is odd, it's going to be shaped like a cubic. It's just going to have more humps. And because it's positive, it's going to shape like that. It's just going to have a lot more humps. So 4 humps. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. Which means that the domain is from negative infinity to infinity. And the range is also from negative infinity to infinity. Okay, let's have a look at another question. Given f of x is equal to x squared minus x minus 6 and g of x is equal to x cubed plus 1, write the function f of x multiplied by g of x and state the domain and range for this function. Okay, well, f of x is this. And we are going to multiply it by g of x, which is this. So, when we multiply through, we'll get x to the power 5 times, plus x squared minus x to the power 4 minus x minus 6x cubed minus 6. Now if we have a look at all of these, it seems like there's no like terms at all to collect. So we can just leave it like that. I'm just going to rewrite them with the powers in descending order. because that's what I'm used to. X to the power 5 minus x to the power 4 minus 6x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 6. Okay, so I've written that function, which we all know is the product of two functions. And so if I want to state the domain and range, if we have a look at this, the term with the highest power is x to the power 5, and because the power is odd, again, it's going to be shaped like the previous question. It's going to be shaped like that, but with more humps. Okay. Therefore, the domain is from negative infinity to infinity, and the range is also from negative infinity to infinity. So just remember, whenever it's shaped like a cubic, the domain and range will always be from negative infinity to infinity. Alright, let's have a look at the last one. Write the function y equals g of x over f of x and state the domain for this relation. So we're just stating the domain, not the range, because we haven't learned how to work that out yet. But for this particular question, type of question, is a quotient of two functions. Okay, because we can see this is division. And the quotient is the answer you get when you divide. So, we have y is equal to g of x, which is x cubed plus 1, over f of x. F of x is x squared minus x minus 6. And that's it. Okay, so we've written that function. Now we need to state the domain of this relation. And the domain is that because we have a fraction, the denominator cannot equal to 0. So this denominator here, that cannot equal to 0. So what can't x be? Well, here, because we've got a monic quadratic trinomial, we can factorize that. The two numbers that multiply to negative 6 but add to negative 1 are negative 3 and 2. So that means we can factorize this to x minus 3 times x plus 2. And that cannot equal to 0. So in order for this to equal to 0, one of these have to equal to 0, right? That means x cannot equal to 3 or negative 2. Because if x was 3, then this whole thing will become 0. And 0 times 5 will equal to 0, and that cannot, that's not allowed to happen. And if x was minus 2, here, minus 2 plus 2 is 0, this will become 0, and 0 times minus 5 is also 0, and we cannot allow that to happen. So, x cannot equal to 3 or minus 2. So when we write that in interval notation, because when we have our number line, we'll just put 0 here, we've got minus 2 here, we've got 3 here. It cannot equal any of these. It's going to go from here all the way through. We can say that it's from negative infinity to negative 2, but it doesn't include it. That's why we use a curved bracket. If it was a closed circle, then we would use a square bracket. But we don't include it, so we use curved bracket. Union from minus 2 to 3. Again, we use curved brackets because we don't include minus 2 or 3. Union from 3 to infinity. And that is the domain for this relation. Right. Given f of x is equal to 4x plus 1 and g of x is equal to 2x squared plus x, find the combined function and state the domain and range for a, b, c, and d. For D, just do the domain. You don't need to do the range. I'll get you to pause the video, and when you're ready to check your answers, continue playing the video. I'm not going to explain these ones. I'm just going to show you the answers. Okay, so let's go through the answers for each of these, the sum, difference, product, and quotient of the two functions. And then I'll show you how to work out the domain and range, because I haven't actually taught you specifics for this particular type of question yet. So for question A, we have y equals 2x squared plus 5x plus 1. Question B, we have y equals minus 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. Question C, the product is y equals 8x cubed plus 6x squared plus x. And for question D, the quotient is y equals 4x plus 1 over 2x squared plus x. Okay. So let's have a look at how to work out the domain and range. So for this one, for question A, the sum of the two functions ends up being a parabola, a positive parabola. So when we draw this out, it's going to look something like this. Okay, we don't know where it's going to be shifted, left or right, up or down yet, but we know that that's the general form, which means that the domain is from negative infinity to infinity. What we need to know is the range. How far down does it go, or up, right? We want to know where the turning point is, what the y value, what the y coordinate is of the turning point. So in order to work it out, we need the x value of the turning point, and we use the formula x is equal to minus b over 2a. This should look familiar to you. And so according to this, b is 5, so minus b is minus 5. A is positive 2, so 2a is 4. So if we want to work out the y value, we're just going to substitute that minus 5 over 4 into that equation. 2 lots of minus 5 over 4 squared plus 5 lots of minus 5 over 4 plus 1. And that'll tell us what the y coordinate of the turning point is. So if we were to put this in our calculator, remember that trick that I taught you, just do minus 5 over 4 equals, and then we can just do 2 times answer squared plus 5 times answer plus 1. That is minus 2.125. So the range, well actually, let's do the turning point. The turning point is minus 5 over 4 minus 2.125. So that means the lowest point of the parabola is at minus 2.125. But because we include that, we use the square bracket. Minus 2.125, comma, and it goes all the way to infinity. Curved bracket. Okay, let's have a look at B. Again, we've got the leading term has a coefficient of negative 2, and the leading term is minus 2x squared, which means it's going to be a parabola, but it's going to be concave down. We just need to know what the turning point is, and what the y value of the turning point is. So we know the domain is from negative infinity to infinity. The question is, what is the range? So the x coordinate of the turning point is minus b over 2a. Well, b is 3, so it's minus 3. A is minus 2, so 2a is minus 4. So that just becomes positive 3 over 4. So the y coordinate is equal to minus 2 times, so we're just subbing that into this equation. Minus 2 times 3/4 squared plus 3 lots of 3/4 plus 1. Let's put that in a calculator and see what we get. So we got 3/4 minus 2 times answer squared plus 3 times answer plus 1 is 2.125. So that means the turning point of this is 3/4 2.125, which means that the maximum point, the turning point, is 2.125, which means we're going from negative infinity, all the way up to 2.125, because that's the maximum, but we include it, so we use the square bracket. Okay, sorry for all the messy working out. Alright, question C. The product is a cubic, 8x cubed, which means that we know it's going to look something like this, which makes it nice and easy. The domain is from negative infinity to infinity, and the range is also from negative infinity to infinity. And for question D, I only want you to work out the domain, which means that the denominator cannot equal to 0 because we cannot divide by 0, we will get an error. So I'm just going to factorize this out. Therefore, x cannot equal to 0 or negative half. So if we were to do that on the number line, here's 0, here's negative half. X can be everything else. X can be all of that and all of that. Okay? It just can't be minus 2 or 0. Therefore, the domain is from negative infinity all the way up to negative half, except we don't include it, so we use a curved bracket. Union from negative half to 0, but we don't include it, so we use a curved bracket. Union from 0 to infinity. They're all curved brackets, and that's the domain of this quotient of the two functions. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope that made sense.